Hi, everybody. I guess welcome to Washington, D.C. Sorry we took a little bit of a break from our industry interviews. Kevin and I were doing a 9-city casting tour of the United States, and we needed to take a little bit of a break from doing this, but I'm really, very happy to be back, in particular because of tonight's guest. Tonight's guest is Dr. Norman Rosenthal. He's a psychiatrist residing and working in the Washington, D.C. area. Norm, you don't mind if I call you Norm?
No,
right?
that's a lot of people call me Norm.
Wonderful. Norm is a psychiatrist. He has also published 7 books, the latest of which is The Gift of Adversity and the subject of tonight's conversation. Beyond that, Norm has worked as a professional clinician and research scientist, would you call it? Or
Yes, absolutely. Research psychiatrist, research scientist.
Research scientist for 20 years at the National Institute of Mental Health. He diagnosed the condition seasonal affective disorder, also known by its appropriate acronym, SAD, during that time period. And he's been heralded also for his writing and the way that Norm is able to understand how it is that the human emotional instrument translates into our daily lives and how it is that it affects our behavior and our interrelation between ourselves. Would you say that that's fairly accurate?
I would, yes. You know, the concept of emotional intelligence has been around, and that really means being able to understand what we're feeling, what other people are feeling, communicating those feelings and regulating them.
Now it's a fairly new science, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of shocking because human beings have been feeling and writing about feeling and expressing feeling since the beginning of time, but the science of it is relatively recent, is it not?
Yes, it is, because what used to be celebrated is the human intellect, our capacity to think and reason and philosophize and all that good stuff. But relatively recently, we understand that the emotions drive a lot of our actions, a lot of what we do and how we conduct ourselves.
Okay. Well, so let's get back to the gift of adversity, the reason why it is that I'm just so delighted to be jumping into this with you. So Dr. Rosenthal wrote this book, The Gift of Adversity, and basically my understanding of the book is that you're recontextualizing adversity from the perspective of it being a problem that needs to be somehow fixed, cured, or reasoned away, to actually a treasure that we all have in our lives that we can use to our benefit if understood in the appropriate context.
Yes, you know, as we go through our lives, we experience various things. Things happen to us. We make errors of judgment. Maybe we set goals for ourselves that make life more difficult than it needs to be. And we learn lessons from what happens to us and what we do. And so it's been with me, as with probably everybody else, that we think back and say, wow, you know, I learned thus and such from this experience, or so on and so forth. When I looked at my life and I looked at the stories that I've accumulated over life's journey, I found that the ones that taught me the most were when things went wrong. In other words, they say you can't become a master sailor on calm seas. Now, let me be clear. Nobody likes adversity. Adversity is, by its definition, unpleasant. We avoid it, and we should avoid it. But we can't really escape it. It's part of life. And the key to what the book is all about is, what can we do to work with the adversity, to learn from it, to make it, as you say, a treasure that we can draw on in our subsequent years.
Now, obviously and purposefully for tonight's conversation, for artists, that is a direct correlation, because it is, in my opinion, that artists, I'm an actor and I've written and A lot of our members are actors and directors and writers, or people that have been drawn to the expressive arts. There's a direct correlation between expression or need to express and adversity in life. I mean, the profession itself is riddled with adversity of all kinds. Some self-inflicted and others that are inflicted simply because that's the nature of the profession itself. It's uncertain. But would you say that it's a universal condition that human beings experience adversity, and that it is ultimately that adversity that informs, no, let me rephrase. It is ultimately how they process that adversity that will yield the desired results, meaning a better life?
Adversity is universal. Some people have more of it, some have less of it, some have better luck, some have terrible luck. It's the hand we're dealt.
Yeah.
But I would say that you couldn't be a great actor without having suffered, because you would not be able to draw upon the crucial experience of suffering in representing the whole palette of human experience.
Where does imagination enter into that? Because I never have had to have murdered someone or have anybody murdered in my immediate life. Thank God that's all the case. But I can surely portray a murder or somebody or the victim of such a heinous act. So where does imagination enter into that statement?
I think imagination is very important, but I think often what we do, let's say we're trying to portray a murderer.
Yeah.
Most of us have felt like killing somebody at some point in time.
Sure, figuratively speaking, yes.
Yeah, we would like to wring somebody's neck, that's a common expression, which comes from when you're furious at somebody. And I think so the actor can take imagination and draw upon that primal rage that we all feel from time to time, and imagine, what if it were amplified? What if we didn't have the restraint that luckily we do have? How would it be then? How would it feel? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's the combination of imagination and experience and sheer skill that's what makes a great actor.